Okay, so I'm going to use my fictional patient here, um, Mrs. Garcia, and we're going to do a brand new patient intake. And so we will just double click here, there we go. Okay, so this is personal injury intake right here. So let's click on that one. Now I have these set up um, for different instances. My staff um, started having to customize too much, and they requested that I add different buttons. So let's just pretend that Mrs. Garcia was the driver. So we'll click there, and we'll start following the questions, okay? Let's say today's date is August 12th. What was the date of the injury? Let's say it was the 6th of August. Okay, where was the patient employed at the time of the crash? Olive Garden. What is the current employment status? She has not been back to work. What kind of work is involved at the place of employment? Being a waitress, she says it is moderate labor. Were you a driver or passenger of the vehicle? She was the driver. What make, model, in your car were you driving? Let's say a 2003 Toyota Camry. Was your vehicle moving or stopped? Let's say that she was stopped at an intersection. What was the estimated speed of your vehicle? She was stopped, so let's put in a 0. What part of your vehicle did the other car hit? She got rear-ended. What were the make and model of the vehicle that hit you? Let's say a 2013 Dodge Ram. What was the estimated speed of the other vehicle? She said she wasn't sure, but she guessed about 15 miles an hour. What was the size of the vehicle that struck you? Let's say, maybe 50% larger. How was visibility at the time of the collision? It's summer, so let's say it was good. What were the road conditions at the time of the impact? Clean and dry. Did you happen to see the crash coming? No. This is important because if the patient is not braced for the impact, her incidence of whiplash is going to be greater. Were you braced for the impact? No, as we just discussed. Were you wearing your seat belt? Yes, this is important. Seatbelts save lives. You would never recommend somebody to not wear their seat belts, but wearing a seat belt also increases the severity of whiplash injury. Um, as it holds you into the seat, your head is allowed to move while your body sits still. So, that's an important question. Did the patient sustain any bruises from the seat belt? Let's say she did not. How is the top of the headrest positioned? Even with the top of the head is about the best you can get. Even with the bottom of the head is terrible. What was your hand position during the crash? Both hands on the steering wheel, right hand on the steering wheel, left hand on the steering wheel. Okay. What was the head position at impact? This is important because if there's any rotation in the head and they're hit from behind, the acute injury risk goes way up. So let's say she was turning to the right talking to her buddy. What was the patient's body position at impact? This is important because slumping forward is going to increase her risk for acute injury. Turning around in the seat, leaning sideways, all of those. So let's say she was slumping forward. Was there any loss of consciousness? Let's say did. Did the airbags deploy? Let's say did not. Did the seat break? Let's say did not. You would think a seat breaking would be a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing if it breaks because it allows the occupant of the car to ride down the energy of the impact. However, if it does not break and it stays rigid, then the risk for acute injury and a late onset of whiplash is greater. Okay. There's some misspellings here we need to go back and correct. Were any objects thrown around the inside of the car? Let's say her phone got tossed around a little bit. Did any part of the body strike the inside of the car? Let's say maybe her shoulder and chest and maybe her noggin. Did the patient have the brakes applied at impact? Did. Now this is important because if she has the brakes applied when she gets hit, it's more of a rigid impact, and her injury is usually going to be worse. If she did not have the brakes on and the car is allowed to roll, then some of that energy from the impact will be absorbed. So, brakes applied, injury worse. Did the police arrive at the scene? Let's say arrived at the scene. Was a police report filled out? Yes. Who received the ticket? The driver of the other vehicle. Did the emergency medical team arrive? Yes. Was the patient taken to the hospital by ambulance? Yes. What aid or support was used after the crash? Let's say a neck brace. What aid or support is currently being used? Let's say she's still got that neck brace on and has added a walking cane. Okay. How did your vehicle leave the scene? It was towed away. How did the other vehicle leave the scene? It was towed as well. What was the estimated cost of the damage of the vehicle you were in? Let's say it was about $2,500. Okay. Now, let's go back to the main menu. Now, all of these buttons here with NV, the NV stands for new visit. So, let's go to medications. Let's say she's probably on hydro. Where'd it go? Hey, there we go. And let's say that's it. Okay, let's just say that she was not on any medication previous to that. Okay, let's go to prior surgeries. Let's say she had an appendectomy in 2000. Okay, had prior treatment after the crash. So this is a button for, say, if she went to the emergency room prior to seeing you. Our hospital here in Amarillo is called BSA. Let's just do that. Okay. If she had a prior car wreck injury before, that is not to be hidden and stuffed under the rug. That needs to be out there. So click this button, talk about it, say the injuries were resolved if they were resolved, and then move ahead. This secondary strike following the crash, that is in the instance where she was hit and then knocked into maybe a telephone pole or the car in front of her or something of that nature. So that's what that is for. Now, if her chief complaint is her neck and she has a prior history of neck pain, then you're going to want to click this button and go through that. Now we'll go to chief complaints here. Now there's a difference between initial chief complaints and current chief complaints. Initial chief complaint may be headache, shoulder pain, low back, and left knee. That might have been after the car wreck. Now she's coming to see us a week later. So now it might just be headache and low back. So we'll kind of walk through that. First initial chief complaint. Let's say headache. How would you rate the level of discomfort now on a scale of 1 to 10? Let's say an 8. Does the patient still experience pains at times? She does. Okay. Second initial chief complaint. We said left shoulder. Put that at a 7. Okay. And then we said low back. And then we said left knee. Okay, so let's go back to chief complaints. Go to current chief complaints. Still having a headache. Now we got neck pain too. What is the frequency of the discomfort you are feeling? Let's say she feels that pretty much all the time. How bad is the discomfort at its worst? Let's say a 10. And at its best, maybe a 6. Describe the onset of the discomfort. Pretty sudden with the wreck. When did the discomfort begin? We're going to put since the wreck. Since the problem began, have the symptoms been getting better, worse, or have they been relatively unchanged? Let's say about the same. Actually, that'd be worse, but I don't want to go back and change it. What aggravates the discomfort? Now, you have a whole bunch of choices here. In the interest of being brief, let's say working, bending, carrying. What relieves the discomfort? Is there a rest? Yeah, resting. What is the quality of the discomfort? Let's say aching, deep, frequent. Not good enough. When is the discomfort at its worst? Let's say in the afternoon. What is the grading of this chief complaint? Now you can go through here and let this be your guide. I would say if it's at a 10 at times, then it's moderate to severe. Maybe even severe. So that's the first chief complaint. And you just follow this through all of the other chief complaints until you're finished. Now let's go back here. Make sure that we've got it all done. If you're feeling extra spunky on that day, then we'll go back. Now this is the main screen. This is Colossus report. DUD means duties under duress. Low means loss of enjoyment. So you can go Colossus values duties under duress, and it values loss of enjoyment. So you can go through these as well, and you'll be able to document what the patient is having a difficult time doing. And so at the end of all of that, when you click on save, I'll show you you'll have a very comprehensive report for that day. And then you'll move on to objective assessment and plan, and I will create separate tutorials for that. If there's a problem with this tutorial or you have any suggestions on ways to improve it, please email me at amarellopacc@gmail.com.